Okay, all right. Good morning. Welcome to my talk. And I working on protein and amino acid biochemistry and nutrition in all kinds of species for many, many years. I'm happy to share with you what we have done over the past 35 years of work. As you all know that agriculture is very important, and fish is very close to my heart. And I grew up with farming of many animals, including fish. So, as you know that over the past 40 years, the agriculture grow very, very fast. As you can see this, and catch a fish is become very important part of animal protein. And many people ask what protein is. And protein is a very big molecule, as you see from this slide. And protein consists of many amino acids. So far, we know 20 amino acids. I know many audience here, they are not nutritionists. And therefore, just forget what I talk about the biochemistry. Okay, and just forget what I talk about those biochemistry. But it's very important for me to introduce what science is, because our industry is based on science. In animal protein and in plant proteins, we have 20 amino acids that are very different, and I show you what they are, and they are different. And some work in the same way, some work in a different way. So, and don't try to memorize what they are. But I have to introduce the basic chemical part of those proteins. For so long, more than 100 years, nutritionists believe that animals only need so-called essential amino acid. And that's based on animal growth experiments. And that include arginine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. And historically, we also have a group of amino acids that are called non-essential. That include alanine, asparagine, aspartate, cysteine, glutamate, glutamine, glycine, proline, serine, and tyrosine. Well, are they really not essential? And that is a problem that has bothered nutritionists for so long, for over 100 years. But today, I would like to convince you that that's not the case. Besides this amino acid in protein, we also have many so-called non-proteinogenic amino acids. And they are not part of the components to make protein, but they are very important, essential nutritionally and physiologically. That include taurine, beta-alanine, and 4-hydroxyproline. And I think not many people know about 4-hydroxyproline, but it's very, very important now we know in animal nutrition that include fish. And this slide shows you the many functions of amino acid in the body. Of course, protein synthesis requires amino acid. Other than that, amino acids are important and essential for cell signaling. And what I mean by cell signaling is you guys something to do something. Like signal, you drive a car, right? You make left turn, you make right turn. You need to let people know what you're doing. Exact function of amino acid in our body, in our fish, in shrimp and crabs, whatever. We need signaling to tell them what to do. And that amino acid are important. In addition to that, amino acid can control food intake, osmosis, control growth and development, energy, metabolism, immune function, antioxidative response, stress response, ammonia removal, and also important for seafood quality. Many people think that, oh, amino acid just important for protein production. Not that so, but also for the function of the whole body. I mentioned that to you just a few seconds ago. For over 100 years, scientists only classify amino acid as essential and non-essential. But that is not a good way to classify amino acid. Now we know. About 15 years ago, I proposed the new concept that is functional amino acid. And we must remember the function of those amino acids in the body. That's I mentioned to you, right? You drive a car, you need to make a signal, left hand, right hand. That's what amino acids are in our body. Without the signaling, nothing going on, and also very dangerous for you and for other people. Same applies to amino acid. And those functional amino acids include arginine, glutamate, glutamine, glycine, and leucine, proline, hydroxyproline, and taurine. And again, not many people know about those amino acids, and because historically they are classified as not essential. But today, I hope I can convince you that no, they are very important and functional in our body. Fish and shrimp has very high requirement for protein. And thus, in contrast to the pigs and poultry, and in my career, I have done a lot of work with the pigs and poultry. But if you look at fish and shrimp, they have 2 or 3 times more protein requirement than our land animals. For what reason? And I'll explain to you why today, why fish and shrimp have such high requirement for protein. They are functional. That is, we must give them amino acid to support the whole body function and survival. One of the most important functions for the amino acid in the body is to make collagen. And yet, you and I sit here, right? The reason why we can stand, we can sit, we can walk, all because of collagen. And yet, not many people realize the importance of collagen. Why collagen is so special? Because it's the most abundant protein in all animals, including fish and shrimp. And among these amino acids, glycine accounts for 1/3 of the total amino acid in collagen. And proline plus hydroxyproline account for another 1/3 of the total amino acid in collagen. You know, we must have glycine and hydroxyproline. Otherwise, we cannot make collagen. And yet, not many people think about that. In the fish and shrimp production, fish meal has long been used as the important source of protein. And about 80%, 87% of the fish meal have been used to feed fish and shrimp and so on. And small amount of fish meal have been used to feed the pig and poultry and pet animals like dogs and cats. Here I give you the composition of amino acid, but for the audience here, right, you just ignore these numbers. But what I try to say is glycine is the most abundant in fish meal. And yet, and before, no one ever think about glycine in fish meal. You can use plant proteins to replace fish meal, and it's not successful all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't work, because we don't know the foundation of the protein in the body. And now, I would like to list to you all those amino acids. Fish meal contains taurine and hydroxyproline, but plant proteins contain no taurine, and plant protein contain little amount of hydroxyproline. And another important component in fish meal is creatine, but plant protein lack creatine. So, how important fish meal is? We have done a lot of work about this fish meal before, but we know it's not sustainable to use fish to feed fish, right? It's just not sustainable. So we must look for alternative protein to feed animals, including fish and shrimp. And what protein should we use? And I know many people use the soybean meal in this country because soybean is so cheap and it's so abundant supply. However, soybean meal is not the only protein that could be used. And there's some problem with the soybean meal, as I explained that to you later. And yet, before, no one thought about that. As you can see from this slide, the price of the fish meal increased a lot over the past 40 years. But the price of soybean meal is quite stable. Well, fish meal costs so much. We must do something to replace it. I give you the number on those amino acids that are abundant in all animal proteins, and I use soybean meal for comparison. And again, don't try to memorize these numbers. And as a scientist, we must provide a number because number talk, right? We don't talk, but number talk. As you can see from this slide, we must care about glycine. We must care about proline, right? They're so abundant in animal source products, and they're so abundant in fish meal. If we try to replace fish meal with animal alternative products, we must consider glycine and proline. If you don't consider that, that would be a big problem. As I mentioned that to you before, historically, soybean meal has been a big source of protein for pigs and poultry, and now we use that for fish. But soybean meal is great, but not completely perfect. Why? Because soybean meal is deficient in glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. And yet, before, no one paid attention to those functional amino acids. And soybean meal does not contain taurine or creatine. And they are very, very important for the health, survival, and growth of aquaculture species. Now, I hope I give you something about functional amino acid, right? At Texas A&M, we have a wonderful aquaculture facilities. I can show you that we are working with. That's really wonderful. And we're so lucky. Indeed, our lab is the only lab in the whole world that can analyze all amino acids in animal protein and plant proteins. And I list to you here for the composition of amino acid in hybrid stripe bars and largemouth bars and in stream that we work at Texas A&M. Again, don't try to memorize this number, but I must show you the number to show you that glycine, proline, hydroxyproline are among the most abundant amino acids in the body. If you don't have those amino acids in the diet, animal will not grow well at all. See how important they are, right? But up to a few years ago, no one cared about those amino acids. But I hope today you take this message. Here I give you a very small example, really very small example, based on what we have done with the hybrid stripe bars. If we use 60% fish meal in a diet, you know, the fish meal from the diet provide only about 60% glycine, only 6% glycine, even with 60% fish meal. So the fish must produce at least 40% glycine from somewhere else, right? So this is very powerful data to show you, even if you feed a fish meal, they still need a lot of glycine. We share this idea with the scientists at conference, but many people, they said that it cannot be because glycine is not essential. I told them that no, that is a misconception in the science of protein. So we did experiment with glycine with a fish. Look, we summarize all the results for you here. Without glycine in a diet, the fish cannot grow and they die. But if we supplement up to 2% glycine, the fish survive, the growth much better. So is glycine essential or not essential? Of course, glycine is essential. So we must give the fish and the shrimp enough glycine. And where does the glycine come from? Animal products, byproducts. As I explained it to you later. Fish are challenged by a lot of pathogens in the water. And therefore, fish are very, very sensitive to pathogens. But we use glycine to produce glutathione to improve antioxidative response in the fish and the shrimp, and to improve the survival. So again, is glycine essential or not essential? Absolutely essential. And one big problem with feeding fish plant protein is the damage in the gut. For a long time, and nutritionists have very little idea why this gut damage so much if you feed a fish as plant-based proteins. And a few years ago, we did a lot of work with the fish, and we supplement up to 2% glycine in the diet. Wonderfully, it prevented damage in the gut. It's the first time we know glycine improves the antioxidative response in fish, and therefore improves the gut health and reduce the death of the fish. How wonderful glycine is, right? And some people also fed proline to the shrimp in response to ammonia or stress. If you add a little bit amount of proline in a diet, the stress of the shrimp was reduced a lot, and the survival of the shrimp also improved. So proline is very important. And yet, historically, no one pay attention to proline. And we're the first group in the whole world to study and protein biochemistry and nutrition in animals. And we realized the importance of protein. And what is the best source of protein? Animal byproducts. Plant proteins are very deficient in protein. Interestingly, about 15 years ago, a group of scientists in Europe, they supplement very small amount of hydroxyproline to salmon. And that the salmon grow a lot more faster. At that time, they didn't understand why hydroxyproline is so important. Now we know why. Because hydroxyproline is used by fish to produce glycine. How important the story is. That's why basic research is a driving force to apply research. Well, I'm just so happy this. Hydroxyproline is so wonderful, and it is the source of glycine. What are the best source of glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline? Animal byproducts. Animal byproducts. So I give you a list of those animal byproducts that are produced by the U.S. rendering industry that include blood meal, feather meal, and meat and bone meal, and spray protein, and so many important. They're available in the country, and they are abundant in functional amino acids. That's why those animal byproducts are so wonderful to promote the circular economies globally. How do we use those animal byproducts? You can use them alone, or you can combine them together to produce complementary effects. I give you an example here on the blood meal and fat meal. They have different composition of amino acid, but if you combine them together, they're so much better than the soybean meal. So you can see the example here in my calculation here. No single protein can provide all amino acid sufficiently, but if you combine them together, the effect is so much greater. And this is another example with the blood meal, with the meat and bone meal. If you combine them together, they provide a lot more amino acid than the soybean meal alone, right? You can use them by itself, but if combine them, the effects are so much better. Another example is the spray poultry plasma and a fat meal. They are abundant in something, particularly in histidine, lysine, glycine, and hydroxyproline. And you mix them with a fat meal, they are great source of those functional amino acids. And they are so abundant that you can get from the soybean meal. So you can use animal byproducts to replace up to 80% of the fish meal. That's a great successful story. How we can use the cheap resource protein to replace expensive and limited fish meal. And this slide, I give you all those numbers about the proportions. And those numbers come from experiments. In this slide, you can see how we can use poultry byproduct to replace fish meal for rainbow trout dyes. You can use up to 12% and 5% fat meal. That's very important to replace the fish meal. And we also did experiment with a largemouth bath with poultry byproduct. We can use up to 45% of poultry byproduct in the diet for largemouth bath. Yeah, don't remember the numbers, but I just show you the concept based on our scientific experiments. And we can reduce the fish meal from 54% down to 15% with the poultry byproduct. And our fish grow very well, and we save a lot of money. And at the same time, we can improve the survival of the fish. So these are the data that we got from our experiments. In here, I give you the proportion of animal byproduct to be included in a diet for the shrimp. We can use up to 70% of the animal product in a fish meal, in a fish and shrimp diets. And again, this is from our own experiment. We can use up to 40% of the poultry byproduct in a diet for the shrimp. And yet our shrimp grow very well, and we save a lot of money as well. So I convince you about the importance of animal byproduct in the feeding of fish and shrimp. I hope I have done so. And why the animal byproducts are so important in the nutrition of fish and shrimp? Don't forget the concept I introduced to you, that is functional amino acid. And that concept I proposed about 15 years ago, and now have been accepted globally to feed all kinds of animals, not just fish and shrimp, cattle, pigs, and chickens, even dogs and cats, and even humans. So we're so happy that they translate the basic research to feed aquaculture species. So all the things that I taught with you today It's summarized in my 3 textbooks and reference books, The Principles of Animal Nutrition and Biochemistry and Nutrition of Amino Acid. So finally, I would like to thank the sponsors of our research, and that include USDA and Texas A&M, and I also thank my colleagues for the great support. Thank you very much.